Our first couple to ever perform together on the fifth stage. Leslie says that she's always up for an adventure, which I do believe telling a story here on our stage tonight qualifies. Please welcome Leslie Ford.
Hi everyone. I'm speaking in the mic now, yes? Okay. 5 years ago, on my 20th anniversary with my partner, I had a CT scan of my head. Leading up to this scan, the previous year I'd gotten hit head on by a drunk driver, and the airbag deployed and smacked me in the head. And then a week after the first anniversary of the first accident, I got hit again with the airbag deployed and hitting me in the head. Now, one would think that the ER folks would have asked for a scan that first accident, but due to a prevalence of the flu running through the ER at that time, and me not being vaccinated, that flew by the wayside. So 5 years ago, when my partner said, "You go get checked or I'll leave," I went to the doctor, who asked my partner what she wanted, over the phone, mind you. And she said, "I want a brain scan." I stopped on my way home from work, did the scan, and when I was leaving, the folks asked if I'd had a ride home. I said, "No, I've got it," and I left. Not long after I got home and was preparing to go out to my anniversary dinner, we received a call from the doctor. Mind you, she called Tyler. Our doctor said, "I know Leslie is right there. Could you put her on the speaker?" We look at each other and know something is big was up. Doctor said they found a mass on my brain, and I had an appointment the next day with a neurosurgeon. Whoa. How does all this story lead to the topic of faking it? One might ask. I knew something wasn't right. I mean, I didn't really have any clue what could be wrong. Did I work too much? Yes. Did I commute a lot? Yes. Did I fall asleep in the middle of a conversation? Yes. Did I spend my mornings puking? Yes. The list goes on to signify that something is wrong. But what could it have been? And was I willing to cop to not being my best self? No. I said no to the point of almost giving up my relationship. Mind you, this is not new for me. I've been a great, stubborn, defiant denier my whole life. I had myself convinced I was just tired, dog tired, all the time tired. So I just plugged away, faking that I felt great, that I could conquer the world, that I was perfectly healthy. And although puking was a little worrisome, I would get myself to work my tail off, and limp my way home and fall asleep. Now, on Saturdays, I could barely get out of bed. Now, this tiredness started happening before the accidents. I did try to figure out what was going on, but to a degree. It was hard, though. They did find that I had hypothyroidism, but that didn't explain it all. After the accidents, which were a challenge to heal from in themselves, Tyler was so very frustrated because she could see that there was something very wrong. But I would not have any of it. I was fine. She could get, nothing was wrong. Nothing could get me. I fell asleep at work at my desk, in meetings. I got to the point where I really had to check my work. And I was an ace. But sometimes I couldn't remember how to do basic tasks, and that I did every day at work and at home. Tyler reminded me of one of the incidents in which were significant in her observations of my decline, in which I proceeded to put the cherries in the refrigerator. They weren't cherries, it was cantaloupe. And it wasn't the refrigerator, it was the oven. I was confused. I wasn't faking it till I made it. I was faking it to survive, or so I thought. When we went to the neurosurgeon, she sat down on her stool and rolled up real close to us. "Your CT scan shows a ginormous mass. This This is a quote. She said, ginormous. It looked like it was a pituitary tumor that had wrapped itself around my brainstem and was wrapping itself around the artery up there and had crushed my third nerve that affected my left eye. Shit, caught. It was caught. There really was something going on, and I thought I could just continue faking it until it had passed. No wonder I didn't feel so good. Tyler and I left her office with the knowledge that the tumor probably had been growing up there for about 10 years. And what it had been messing with my endocrine system like crazy. No wonder I had developed hypothyroidism. No wonder that sometimes my head felt so full, filled to the brim, that there was no room for simple thought. No wonder I had ballooned to twice my former size. I can't blame it all on the tumor, though, but for some, for sure. And we were left with what's next. Well, the what's next included 3 brain surgeries and radiation. Mind you, it was not cancerous, which I'm very, very grateful for. After the first surgery, which they did nasally, I could feel the room that my rock star surgeon had created. I felt so much better already, although my whole life was changing. I could no longer work. I could barely negotiate my way through a day. The second surgery, a month later, was a craniotomy. That was a challenge to recover from. I did that with a smile all the way. At this point, I wasn't faking it any longer, not like before. However, there was always been a sense of faking it until I made it through the recovery process. When I first
To welcome our next storyteller. It's also her first time on the FIST stage. I consider myself to be something of the unofficial FIST archivist. And I pay attention to these little details, and I do believe, and this wasn't officially part of the intro, is Leslie getting backstage? I don't know that I was supposed to say this, but actually, this is the first show where we've ever featured a couple. And Tyler and Leslie are our first couple to ever perform together on the FIST stage. Leslie says that she's always up for an adventure, which I do believe telling a story here on our stage tonight qualifies. Please welcome Leslie Ford.
Hi everyone. I'm speaking in the mic now, yes? Okay. 5 years ago, on my 20th anniversary with my partner, I had a CT scan of my head. Leading up to this scan, the previous year I'd gotten hit head-on by a drunk driver, and the airbag deployed and smacked me in the head. And then a week after the first anniversary of the first accident, I got hit again with the airbag deployed and hitting me in the head. Now, one would think that the ER folks would have asked for a scan that first accident, but due to a prevalence of the flu running through the ER at that time, and me not being vaccinated, that flew by the wayside. So 5 years ago when my partner said, "You go get checked or I'll leave,"